There is a real science, and there is really a lot of research that's put into grocery store layout, and it does change. And so it's not just to irritate shoppers, but the islands that change with the seasonal items or the expanded bakery section around holidays. It's just really fascinating. And I know that there's a lot of research that goes into store layout, and I think it truly is a science all its own.
A new study finds grocery shopping in the U.S. is evolving. According to the 2019 U.S. Grocery Shopper Trends Report by the Hartman Group for the Food Marketing Institute, boomers, millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X have their own unique shopping habits and preferences. On today's Sound Living, Grocery Shopping Trends. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Research and Extension nutrition specialist Sandy Procter finds this study particularly interesting because it details shopping trends for a wide range of consumers. Sandy, a chance today to just have kind of a general conversation about some of the things we're seeing in terms of how things are evolving for U.S. grocery shopping. There are a number of trends that are starting to emerge, and some of this is just based on personal preference, but a lot of it is also generational.
I think it's generational. I think it has a lot to do with our food trends in general, our emphasis on nutrition. And so what grocery stores or supermarkets do to respond to those focus points that come about for us as consumers really shapes the way that we go about shopping.
One of the trends they talked about was the fact that we're actually eating alone probably more often than we have in the past.
Well, it makes sense when you think about it, and you look at some of the other statistics that more and more people are choosing to not be married or to live alone, and then our schedules oftentimes really keep us from having a meal together. And I don't think maybe in many cases it's emphasized for a lot of us as much as it used to be. Hopefully still for families and even for all of us, eating together has some really positive benefits. But for many of us, just the ease and the schedule of things, we're going to eat alone a lot of the time.
Along those same lines, we're seeing some more individualized eating. People may be on a special diet or maybe more emphasis in one area than another.
This research shows that a third of the households have at least one member voluntarily following at least one dietary approach. And so that's like, special diets like maybe vegetarian or a paleo or keto, some special diet that drives their food choices and drives the way maybe that they shop or the way that they cook. Just thinking of our own family, there was a time when my older son decided he was vegetarian for a while, and it kind of pushed the way that we cooked and prepared meals and planned meals, and so it did affect our shopping habits.
I'd mentioned earlier about the fact that some of this is generational, and they're finding that there's a difference between boomers and millennials when it comes to really looking at the package and looking for that transparency.
Well, just the fact that some of us choose to look at the package and touch the food and go there to shop is actually one of the big trend differences. Those of us in the older generation still really want to see our foods and make those selections off the shelf, want to decide if the store brand is better than the name brand for whatever purpose or intent we have in mind, or maybe, just sit there and compare prices or read the pack weight or whatever it is on the label. But for a lot of the younger generation, the ability to order online or to have grocery service pick up foods for us and have it ready for us to pick up or, arrive at the door is really far outweighs the advantage of being able to look our food in the eye, so to speak.
One of the things that somewhat surprised me was the fact that our frequency of shopping really hasn't changed much.
Well, and I think that is starting to show some age divide there. While there still seems to be a strong presence for people making one big grocery shop maybe a week or every other week, and then little short drop-ins for some more perishable foods. We're also seeing that some of the younger generations seems to be trending toward more frequent shopping, short trips, maybe at different stores for different types of foods, but maybe as many as 3 times a week. And this maybe reflects the variable schedule, a real focus on wanting to decrease food waste, so shopping for those perishables even more often than before, And so there does seem to be sort of still a divide there. And some of the things I look at say there's a mix of who's doing what, but it may be gradually inching toward more frequent shopping.
You mentioned the fact that we may be going to more than one place, and they're actually finding that almost 5 different places a week to do our shopping.
I found that really interesting, especially when we spend so much time thinking about food deserts, when there isn't any place for some people to shop that's really very accessible. And then for those of us with more resources at hand, we may have that opportunity to stop and shop at multiple different kinds of retailers. And many more types of stores are carrying some type of foodstuffs that we may want to stop at. So maybe you're stopping at big box stores around that are mostly for, tools and furniture and plants and stuff, but they'll have a small grocery section, and maybe you pick up something there. Or some of the things that you typically buy at the grocery store that aren't necessarily food, you now get someplace else, and you'll see that there's, something that might be on your grocery list, but you get it at another place. And many people are taking part in more local food opportunities like farmers markets or local meat markets that are not full-serve stores, but have a very niche, single-target, single-food sort of offering.
We're also seeing that they're doing more of those meals that come right to your house that you can prepare yourself.
Those are, I think, still trending, last I've heard, and they're really smart. They're looking at just what people want to do. Some people really still want to cook. They just don't want the hassle of looking for unique and varied ingredients in a crowded store on the night that they want to make it. They want to come home, know that everything's in place, and be ready to cook. And I have to admit, that just sounds pretty tempting.
Probably no surprise we are seeing more online shopping by really all sorts of demographics.
There's a lot of things pushing that, I think. It's very handy. You can shop and formulate your list in the middle of the night and make sure that everything's available. It can be very cost effective. And sometimes, even for charitable giving, you can go online, and places I know like Cat's Cupboard here on campus has their own online Amazon account. They will put their wish list up there, and you can shop for them and have it delivered. So you virtually don't have to park and haul things in and contribute, but you can still do a very good deed just through online grocery shopping. I think there's just lots of different things out there that are making it very creative and very easy for people to grocery shop in a variety of different ways.
They're finding that women are still doing a lot of the grocery shopping, but men are starting to catch up and maybe even take the lead slightly in that area.
I see that, I think, just in our own grocery store here. As I'm in there looking for the groceries of the day or the week, I'll notice that it seems about 50-50 what I see and who I see shopping. And I have to say, it's not always me that's in there. My husband shops frequently as well, just depending on what our schedules are and what our mission is. If we have something that we've identified that we feel like we need, and we'll run in and get it while somebody else is doing something else. So it is a lot less structured, and certainly is going to be made to fit the rest of the schedule, maybe more than it ever has before.
Another of the trends that they found was the fact that primary stores will vary by generation.
That's true. I think those of us who are boomers and maybe older, mature shoppers probably still are looking at a supermarket as our main store for groceries. But 43%, they say, of Gen X and younger shoppers like to turn to supercenters more often, or even the limited assorted stores like Aldi's, or some of those stores that may be smaller but have wide variety of foods and price point that appeals to shoppers.
You also found some information regarding supermarkets while we're on that topic about some of the trends that we see among the supermarkets themselves. And one of those was they're becoming more of a social hub, and they're going to maybe more of a smaller scale supermarket.
I think that is one of the ways that stores are finding that they are able to remain viable, is to have a smaller footprint. And also, I know just from what I've heard with the Rural Grocery Institute that having sort of a key of focus, whether that's an in-store meat market or a delivery service to everyone in the area. Some of these rural stores especially, they have something that sets them apart from other stores. And in the case of some of these even urban stores, we think about it here in Manhattan. We have stores where it's got a restaurant built in or a cafe, and a lot of people are there for more than just a cup of coffee or to pick up fast food for dinner. There actually are opportunities to have sit-down meals in stores, and so it really is appealing to a wide variety of shoppers with a wide variety of socialization needs. Seeing
less brand loyalty as well, and that may be something that is somewhat generational. I know I have the things I buy all the time. It's got to be the same brand, same brand. My kids are not that way. They're going to buy either what they see on the label or they're going to buy because of the cost.
Well, and I think it's really amazing, too, that there are so many more brands and they cycle in and out, much more frequent changes maybe than there used to be, that those of us that may think we are brand loyal may find it difficult to always find the same thing. Or we'll see that this brand that we've been very loyal to is, the packaging has gotten smaller, the price hasn't really changed, and there are some really strong competitors out there.
One of the things that I liked about these trends that are showing up is the fact that it gives me a little bit of insight as to why the grocery store changes. We always think they change the layout based on the fact they want us to go down different aisles, but there's really a lot more to it. There's a real science to this.
I think so. And I believe from what I have read and learned that there is a real science and there is really a lot of research that's put into grocery store layout, and it does change. And so it's not just to irritate shoppers. Who knew? But instead, it's got a lot to do with both the psychology of the shopper, like you said. I'm always fascinated to find that the milk and the juice are in the farthest corner of the largest grocery store, knowing that that's probably two things that's going to pull people in to a store and, clear across the store. But I find it really interesting that same store that has that whole section there in the back also has a refrigerated part right up front where there's the milk and juice, in case that irritates you so much that you're not going to go to the back of the store. And so they've made it easier, but if you want the full choice, you need to walk the full length of the store. That's just a small example, but the islands that change with the seasonal items and the different types of foods, or the expanded bakery section around holidays, it's just really fascinating. And I know that there's a lot of research that goes into store layout and product height, and I think it truly is a science all its own.
And the growing organic sections, that type of thing, we see that as well.
And that one changes too. It used to be that all the organic foods were kept off to the side so you could shop over there and find them. So many of them now are mainstreamed. You'll find the organic cereals mixed right in with the regular top name brand cereals. And the same is true with ethnic foods. Used to be in separate sections, now all woven together. And sometimes trying to figure out where an ingredient might be placed, it's like, well, this is a tomato. Why isn't this here? Well, that's usually used in cooking, so it's over here as opposed to in the canned vegetable section. So I think the psychology of it, sometimes it's beyond me and maybe the average shopper, but I do think there's a real science behind it. And you're right, that's why it evolves.
It's always fun to see where the trends are headed. And if somebody wants to find more information on this, I think this came from the 2019 Food Marketing Institute U.S. Grocery Shopping Trends Study. So you can probably Google that long thing and find all the information.
I think so. Or if you just put shopping trends, grocery shopping trends, and search for it, you'll find food trends as well as market trends and some of the other items that we've just barely touched on today.
That's K-State Research and Extension Nutrition Specialist Sandy Procter with thoughts on the 2019 U.S. Grocery Shopper Trends Report by the Hartman Group for the Food Marketing Institute. Additional health and nutrition information can be found at all county and district extension offices and on the extension website www.ksre.ksu.edu. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.